The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus, but the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them, Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his possessions and set off to a distant country where he squandered his inheritance in a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat? And here I am dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.' So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' He became angry, and when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, 'Look, all these years I have served you, and not once did I disobey your orders, yet you never gave me a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fattened calf.' He said to him, 'My son, you are with me here always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord. We've all heard the word prodigal ever since we have come to Mass, but be honest. Have you ever used the word in conversation outside of the context of saying prodigal son? Probably not. But we all use synonyms of that word prodigal all the time. Extravagant, extreme, lavish. We always think of the prodigal son, his extreme, sinful, and reckless life. The son is extreme, there's no doubt. But so is the father. Excessive, extreme, lavish, prodigal in his forgiveness and his mercy that he so readily shows his son. This parable is the gospel in miniature because it tells us why Jesus came to save us, so that we would know and experience his Father's lavish love. A love that is meant to shape every single thought of ours, every deed. It's meant to give us incentive to love the way God has asked us to love him. This parable is less about the son than it is about the father. In fact, some people say this parable should be called the parable of the prodigal father. He's the one who is so excessive. God, in other words, Father, he's not a vengeful judge waiting to pounce whenever you fail. He's not sitting up on a throne, stroking his gray beard like a shrewd psychiatrist until you come to your senses. Your Father goes out to meet you, runs out, sees you from a distance, and before you can even say the words, "I have sinned against heaven and against you," God, who already knows what is in your heart, hugs you in forgiveness and gives you a robe, shoes, a ring, a feast. In other words, you're welcomed completely back into his family. This is not a cold creator who shaped the world, just set the whole world into motion, and it is now just waiting for us to come back at the last judgment. He is, as I pray every day, our Father. Not just the Father of Jesus Christ, my Father, our Father. Father in the most authentic sense of that word. Somehow, however, he lets things happen that I would not expect of a father. Devastating earthquakes. Let's look to Thailand right now. Tornadoes. Infants going hungry. Unborn killed. Terrorism. Suicide. Bombers. Cancer, schizophrenia. Alzheimer's. And any of your personal tragedies. Things that I wouldn't expect from such a father. But neither can I explain why he sent his son in order to suffer and die for me. Why he still cares for me every single time I turn away from him. Why he wants me to spend eternal life with him forever in his kingdom. Here are a few things that I have learned along the way. I no longer resent the mafia-type person, the horrible person who has mangled each commandment and on his deathbed makes the perfect act of contrition and goes to the same heaven that I have been living so good to see one day. I no longer turn up my nose to the foxhole Christian. You know the foxhole Christian, the one who only prays to God in a time of desperation. In war, tragedies, final exams, illnesses, family problems, high-pressured business deals. They use God as if some spiritual vending machine. I no longer judge. Well, I try not to judge. Because I know from my own life that God's mercy is limitless. No sinner, no prodigal priest, prodigal parent, prodigal child is beyond forgiveness. When you turn back, the Father can't help but run because he is so prodigal with his mercy, excessive, extravagant, lavish in forgiveness. If at this kind of midpoint in the season of Lent you're still looking for some spiritual activity, take Luke chapter 15. Try to figure out where you are in this particular parable at this time in your life. At times, I'm like the elder brother, obedient to the Father while still lacking mercy towards my neighbor, judgmental, maybe even a little jealous of my sinful sibling. At times, I really identify more with the prodigal son. Not that I've had his brand of fun, but in him, far more than in his brother, I see my human weakness in him. I know what it's like to fall, to turn away, and then to come back humbled. We're all frail creatures. We're all prodigal in this sense as sinners. And sometimes, dare I say, I identify more with the Father. I want to be like him, the one who is so quick to forgive. The rest of Lent, let's all do our best to be like the prodigal father. Not acting in vengeance whenever anyone hurts us, when they seemingly get something that they shouldn't deserve in our way of thinking. But let's take the first step, and a quick first step, in showing love and forgiveness and mercy. Let's be prodigal in the best sense of the word. Excessive, extreme in mercy, lavish in love. Because that's what the Father is like. And that's the Father Jesus came to reveal to us, giving us the hope that the Father really does want us to spend all eternity with him in his kingdom.